If you're just joining us, we are joined by Cassie Chantel, and we are talking about Game 1 of the WNBA playoffs. Cass just pretty much flat out said, no matter who wins the Mercury Liberty series, they're not getting past Minnesota. But the question now, though, is of all of the possible opponents for the Minnesota Lynx en route to what may be their 5th championship in franchise history, which team would be their toughest opponent? Is it their next round matchup between the Mercury or the Liberty, or could it be one of the teams from the other side of the bracket? Cass, as always, we'll start with you.
And if we could, Cass, before you answer, and this might be baked into your answer, but I would love to even just get a sense from you about what you see from Minnesota that makes them so seemingly unstoppable. What is it when you watch them? Why is it that you feel like whoever's going to play them is going to lose? Because we could talk about their toughest opponent, but we're saying that you're saying you're like whoever it is going to lose anyway. So what makes Minnesota special to you watching them?
Well, that's such a loaded question. I feel like, where do I even start? So honestly, the question that we should be asking right now is what team is going to beat the Las Vegas Aces? Because I think at this point where we are, the best team right now is Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. So I want that to be said before I even preface this. And the commonality between the Minnesota Lynx and the Aces is when you look at them, they're a machine.
Yeah.
It's the chemistry, they're in sync. It's just a flow to their game. And I see that on the defensive end first. When I see that in a team, it usually starts there anyway. Minnesota Lynx has the best defense in the league. They've proven that all season. The help side in the women's game, well, really in any game, but especially in the WNBA, because nine times out of 10, you're getting beat because of the skill. So to be able to have that help side, and that's what they're getting from Elena. That's what they're getting from Napheesa Collier. That's why Napheesa Collier won Defensive Player of the Year. That's why Elena Smith is heavily in that conversation right now. So that's major key because they're big on the boards.
Yeah.
And then they have assassins. Kayla McBride. I think that Kayla McBride is probably the best shooter in the league.
I agree.
Just over time.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about, and this is just a sidebar, but I have to throw it in there. When we're talking about a female Steph Curry, if we're not talking about Kayla McBride, we shouldn't be talking about anybody because that's the only play. Outside of that, I don't even think there is a female Steph Curry. Yeah, people can shoot from the logo. People can shoot from a distance. But when we're talking about how they're able to move off ball, what they're able to do around the rim, Steph Curry is more than a three-point shot. And that's what Kayla McBride gives for the Lynx. And she can also be a defender. They don't want her playing the best player on the team because they need her to be able to run around and shoot, but she can defend. And she comes up with big moments on the defensive end too. So Minnesota just has so many weapons that are constant and everybody knows their role. And I didn't even talk about Courtney Williams, the energy player, regardless if she's on offensively.
Yeah.
She's the energy player. And when she's off, she has a twin. Napheesa Heidemann, 6th Player of the Year. So they have so many actors to make this team, which in any other lifetime would be a championship team, but just not right now because of Las Vegas.
Wow. Yeah, Napheesa played great yesterday. What a great game. She played great yesterday. Oh, God. She really is a hooper's hooper. Like, she just goes out and hoops. Lefty, like when she's on, she really hoops. I love how you described that with Minnesota. They have a connectedness. Defensively, they're connected. Offensively, they're connected. Roles are clearly defined. Very little egos. You just see the connectedness. Courtney gets her shots. She can be aggressive. We're looking for Kayla when it's time to get her going. Fee is just the constant rim running, sealing, getting easy baskets, making things a little bit easier for everybody else because she's so sound fundamentally and so skilled. Man, they are so impressive. And we had a guest on Cass recently, Jordan Banks. He touched on Courtney Williams and her pace and how she pushes that ball for them, which really is so noticeable when you watch them. just how you mentioned the word energy. Like she really keeps the energy and the pace going. And because she can be such a skilled shot maker, she can get right into actions, look for her shot, and just get them going. They talked during the broadcast one time about like their pace and how they push ahead. They do the pitch ahead passes. They look ahead. They create pace, I think, with their passing. And you may not think of them as like a fast team or like a transition team, right? But they run and they pass and they move, right? You don't think of them as like super athletic or like fast or like up and down, like, but they do play that way because they push with the pass, and they have such a natural like comfort with the tempo of their offense, even in the half court. So it's like they have so many options, so many legit options. It's crazy.
I definitely think Minnesota's toughest opponent will be the Aces. I mean, for all the reason that you guys just mentioned, for the Minnesota side of things, like they are, I don't want to say the epitome of a half court team, but they are, for all intents and purposes, like a quintessential half court basketball team on both sides of the ball. Like their defense at their best in the half court, their offense at their best in the half court. I think what's going to be interesting, especially as we look at what the Aces have done over this last, what is now 17 straight wins after last night, is we've seen the Aces be a lot more intentional and also be a lot more effective with pushing the ball in transition and speeding up the tempo, right? I think earlier in the season, they were kind of struggling. It was a lot of just feeding the ball to Asia and get out of the way. And oftentimes we saw the offense kind of grind to a halt. But what we saw, especially look at that game against Seattle last night, we're talking about Melissa Smith, grabbing rebounds and then immediately, pushing the ball up the floor. We're seeing Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray get steals and cause turnovers and nature on the perimeter, push the ball in transition. And I think even though Minnesota can play that way offensively, as far as keeping up with the pace on offense, Minnesota, I think, would have a hard time keeping up with that pace on defense. I think, especially now with the way that everything is just clicking with how the Aces have looked over these last 17 games since they lost that big game, 53 points to this Minnesota team, right? And so I just think matchup wise, now the Aces are a much better matchup for the Lynx now than they were even a couple weeks ago, or especially when they lost by 53, because all the pieces are clicking. And like you said, Martin, it seems like now even in Vegas, the roles are a bit more defined. Like Melissa Smith's role is a lot clearer. Dana Evans' role off the bench is a lot clearer. Jackie Young looked really, really good last night. Like she almost kind of reminded me of what she looked at in 2023 last night when she was playing in that Seattle game. And Cheyenne Parker-Tyus is back, and now her role is even defined, and her presence now even adds a little bit more to that post depth and that post assistance for A'ja Wilson that Martin and I were talking so much about, that was so desperately needed before NaLyssa Smith got there, and even a little bit after NaLyssa Smith got there as well. I think, and as the playoffs continue, of course, because we're not going to see these two teams match up unless it's in the finals, we're going to see those roles, especially in Vegas, get even more defined, and they're going to get even more comfortable. And for Minnesota, I think it's always just been about confidence, right? When you're talking about players like Napheesa Heideman, you're talking about players like Dejanay Carrington, Elena Smith, like when those players, even Kayla McBride, like, and we know that she's the second or third best player on the team, like when the players around Napheesa Collier are winning and they're clicking and they're growing in their confidence, by the time we see these two teams match up potentially in the finals, we're going to see two really good, confident teams with two, and all of their players have very clearly defined roles, and it's going to be the perfect matchup. I don't know. I have the Aces winning that series because I am a fan and because I do think they're the hottest team and the best team in the WNBA right now. But that would be a series that could literally go either way, because I think both of their styles of play just match up perfectly and counter the other team's strengths very, very well. It's going to be a match of wits and likely come down to just which of the two coaches between Cheryl Reeve and Becky Hammon coaches a better series at the end of the day.
And you mentioned the matchup, their last matchup a couple weeks ago. That was supposed to be the one where we see the best version of both teams against each other. Vegas during the win streak. Minnesota's been great all year. And A'ja, she didn't just outplay Fee. Fee just looked outmatched. And, it could have just been an off game. She was missing kind of some shots that she usually makes. So it's not like she was just out of sorts. But, Asia blocked her like badly once or two times. It wasn't just blocking. It looked like she was like baby
volleyball.
Like I hate to put it that way, but I watched that game and I'm like, Fee looks outmatched here. She just looks a little overwhelmed. And I don't put it past her to take that, bottle that up, and for the team to bottle that up and use that going into a potential final series against Vegas. But Cass, that game, not only did that game, I think, change the course of the MVP narrative, that game gave Vegas back their mental edge over Minnesota. So if they're going to match up again, Minnesota's going to have to try some things and figure some things out, because Vegas's best player has the edge over their best player. And if that's going to be the case, Vegas absolutely wins. I don't see a world where Asia is playing that much better than Fee in a series and Minnesota can still win. Fee is going to have to outplay Asia in a couple of those games.
I don't see it happening, because that's the difference between the two. And when we're talking about the MVP conversation and we're just looking at these two players and we're trying to decide which one is better than the other, Coach Hammond has said it before. Asia is the embodiment of dominance. Like it's just different.
Yeah.
I mean, when Napheesa Collier has a 30-point game, because she's had a couple herself, it doesn't look the same as an Asia Wilson 30-something game.
It looks different.
And it's not just offensively. We're looking at boards and we're looking at blocks.
That's right.
And steals.
That's right.
It's just, that's what the Aces have become. Because if we go back to when the Aces were dealing with being below 500 and we're looking at the post-game press conferences, Asia was never shook. Yeah. She always had confidence.
Always.
So she's the energy that the team has had to feed off of. I feel like Asia pulled the Aces up by the bootstraps and said, listen, it's getting for real now.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing Jackie Young play better than she's ever played before. When she's facilitating the offense, they are at their best. She has pulled the best out of Chelsea Gray, because at first, Chelsea Gray was shooting first. She was thinking that she had to score. She wasn't even the point guard no more in the beginning of the season, That's
right.
But now everybody's playing up, because now they're feeding off everybody's greatness. And when we look at the roster just flat out, and we're going bar for bar, the Aces have better players.
Than who?
Than the Lynx. We're looking everybody else. They're better. Kayla McBride might be an anomaly here. She's a great shooter, but overall package, we're looking at the roster bar for bar. The Aces have better players. So now that we have the best players in the league playing like the best team in the league, who's stopping the train? The only thing that's stopping them is if they press stop at this point.
That's a great point.
I just don't see it.
Cass, to go on a 15-game win streak going into the playoffs, you talk about getting hot at the right time. That's unheard. They haven't lost. What if they just win out? What if they don't lose another game? That's on the table. I said it last week, Cass. I think Vegas has gained their edge back of like teams. Use the word fear or whatever you want to use. Teams are not confident against the Aces anymore. We're back to where teams are like, what do we do with this?
NECA last night after first quarter, they were like, how do you stop Asia Wilson? And she said a bunch of words, but all those words basically meant you can't. That's basically what she said. She's like, you can't stop Asia
Wilson.
Do
nothing.
Yeah. It's really impressive. I brought up how Jewel Lloyd really deserves so much credit, Cass, because we've seen she led the league in scoring 2 years ago. Like this is a historically prolific scorer in the WNBA who we didn't hear a peep out of when the idea came up about bringing her off the bench. I mean, we didn't hear anything. We didn't see any body language drop off. She stepped into that just seamlessly. And there are other things that have been mentioned. I know you've been in post-game pressers with the team throughout the season and been able to ask certain questions and have observed things. And, I've heard different things about like how Becky let the players start doing their own scout and how that played a factor in their turnaround. So I don't want to just point to the bringing Jewel Lloyd off the bench was the, but that was part of the turn. That was part of it. And for her to embrace that and just come in as I'm still me, I'm still a scorer. Y'all might be warmed up. She comes in and gets right to it. And she's still who she is, and she's still shining in her role. And now the team is even benefiting. My God, if they win this thing, there's got to be a doc on just this season. There's got to be a whole package on just this, because the first half of the season was not like the second half of the season. And just, I want to hear and see as much as I can about what was going on as they were like manufacturing this turnaround.
We need a documentary, but we need a movie. This is cinema. Who's going to play A'ja Wilson? That's what we need to be asked. Because at this point, we're witnessing history. At this point, no one can tell me any differently.
Yeah. Bro, Cass, I can't get over. I said this before we talked about A'ja a couple weeks ago. Just her combination of size, strength, and skill. It's just baffling to me each time I watch her. But I think that the number one thing for me is her shooting ability. I would love to talk to her and just find out more about her regimen over the years to getting her jump shot to where it is. That thing is a thing of beauty. It's just perfect. It's just perfect. Like, I mean, you put her in any spot. You let her roam the 3-point line on dribble drives. She can take a half step back. Like, what do you do? What do you do with her? And then her strength, she hasn't lost an ounce of her strength she still puts her shoulder into you, 2 dribble drives, right? Can't guard her in the post. She's got the footwork. She's got the turnarounds. But all of that, I feel like it always comes back for me to her shooting touch and her shooting ability. It's just on another level.